Hello and welcome to a revision tutorial by MrMcMillanREvis, making revision easier. This is the fifth and final tutorial in a series on Edexcel GCSE Religious Studies Unit 3.3, Marriage and Family Life. In Part 5 we'll look at contraception. What is contraception and how does it work? The word contraception comes from putting together the word contra, meaning against, and the word conception. So it simply means against conception. It refers to any method or action that attempts to prevent conception or fertilization from occurring. It is also often referred to as birth control, or you may hear the more generic title of family planning. For the purpose of the GCSE, Edexcel not only expect you to know what contraception is, but they also expect you to be able to identify some forms of contraception and have an understanding of how they work. Methods of contraception can be split into two main groups: artificial contraception and natural contraception. Broadly speaking, artificial contraception refers to any method that artificially tries during sex to prevent the fertilization of the egg or the implantation of the embryo. Natural contraception, also known as natural family planning, attempts to avoid conception by using knowledge of the woman's menstrual cycle to know when to avoid having sex, to reduce the possibility of conception, since a woman is only fertile for a limited number of days during her monthly cycle. What different methods of contraception exist? Firstly, I'll begin with the one method I've already mentioned, natural family planning. Natural family planning, which is sometimes referred to as the rhythm method, uses the woman's menstrual cycle to help a couple avoid sex during the time of ovulation and thus reduce the chances of pregnancy. Secondly, there are barrier methods. Barrier methods work by creating an artificial barrier between the sperm and the egg. The most common example of a barrier method is the male condom, although other examples do exist. Thirdly, hormonal methods. Hormonal methods work by regulating a woman's hormones in order to prevent her body from releasing an egg. Common examples include the contraceptive pill and the contraceptive implant. Fourthly, sterilization. Sterilization is a permanent method of contraception, although the procedure can be reversed, and as with any surgical procedure, cannot be guaranteed to be 100% successful. For men, this involves a vasectomy, also known as having the snip. This involves cutting and sealing the vas deferens, the tube which takes sperm from the testicles to the penis. In women it involves a laparoscopy, also known as having your tubes tied. This involves cutting the fallopian tubes, thus preventing any eggs from getting to the uterus or womb. Two further methods should be mentioned, which are more controversial for reasons that will become clear. An IUD, or intrauterine device, is a small device inserted into the uterus, which makes it unlikely for the lining of the womb to be able to accept a potential embryo. The morning after pill, which is sometimes called an emergency contraceptive, is a drug that works either by preventing ovulation or by preventing a fertilized embryo from implanting in the lining of the womb. These two methods of contraception are referred to by some as abortifacients, which means abortive agents, which sounds the same if you say it quickly enough. This means that they do not always prevent conception, but sometimes work by preventing implantation of an already fertilized embryo. For some people, this means they should be treated in the same way as abortion, since they end pregnancy rather than prevent it. What are the different Christian attitudes to contraception? For many non-religious people, the use of contraception is not controversial, apart from perhaps the use of the abortifacients mentioned. However, among Christians there are different views about the moral acceptability of using contraception. Generally speaking, we can identify two separate attitudes: the Catholic attitude, which argues that artificial contraception is morally wrong, and the non-Catholic attitude, which says it is okay for Christians to use contraception responsibly. However, it should be pointed out that there are exceptions to each. For example, the Quiverful movement is a group of evangelical Christians who are against the use of contraception. On the other hand, there are some within the Catholic Church who argue that contraception should be allowed, for example the organisation Catholics for Choice. What is the Catholic attitude to contraception? Firstly, the Catholic Church taught in the Second Vatican Council that Catholic parents should thoughtfully take into account both their own welfare and that of their children when planning family size, and that there are reasonable grounds for spacing births. In other words, Catholics are not just expected to have as many children as physically possible. However, to achieve this aim, the Church teaches that married couples should only use natural family planning to help them limit their family size. All methods of artificial contraception are morally unacceptable for a variety of reasons. 1. Artificial contraception separates the unitive and the creative aspects of sex, which the Church teaches should always go together. Just as it would be wrong to have sex with someone just to get them pregnant but not to be united as a couple, so it would be wrong to be united but not to be open to the creative possibilities of sex. 2. The Church believes that some forms of contraception are in fact forms of early abortion, which goes against the Church's teachings on the sanctity of life. 3. The Church has taught that the availability of artificial contraception is a major cause of sexual promiscuity, which has an adverse effect on society by causing unwanted pregnancies, increased rates of STIs, broken families, and a lack of respect for women. What do non-Catholic Christians think about contraception? Most non-Catholic Christians regard contraception as acceptable when used by a married couple to restrict family size. They believe this because 1. Unlike Catholics, they do not believe that every sexual act has to be unitive and creative at the same time. Sex can be just for the unitive purpose of uniting a couple. 2. They argue that there is nothing in the Bible that directly forbids the use of contraception, so it is up to the conscience of each individual to decide if they think it is morally acceptable. 3. Artificial contraception can help prevent the spread of STIs such as HIV/AIDS and should be accepted on humanitarian grounds. In summary, contraception refers to any action or method that aims to prevent conception or fertilization. We can distinguish between artificial contraception, which aims to prevent conception during sex, and natural contraception, which aims to avoid conception by avoiding sex at certain times. The Catholic attitude is that artificial contraception is wrong because it separates the unitive and creative aspects of sex, and in some cases may be an early abortion. Catholic parents should use natural family planning to wisely plan their family size. The non-Catholic attitude is that most forms of contraception, not including those that are abortifacients, are acceptable when used by a married couple to plan family size, since they are not mentioned in the Bible and can help limit the spread of STIs. Thanks for watching. I've been Mr. McMillan. That's the last part in this series on marriage and family life. For the other parts, click the links. Also keep an eye out for my summary video on the whole of this unit. If you found this useful, please give this video a thumbs up and follow me on Twitter. You can also download an audio version of this video from iTunes so that you can listen to it on your MP3 device.